Hello, and welcome to a special look at Outpost Infinity Siege. So this will be my kind of summing up my experience with it. It will be a review for now having 100% of the game basically. I think there's like still some challenge modes and things I can do, but essentially at this point I've got everything unlocked, and my base about as good as it's going to be able to get at this point, unless I just want to grind out more and more and just get more and more bigger and bigger turrets added to it. But it's powerful enough to handle every boss in the game, practically one-shotting them at this point, so anything beyond this is just overkill. The game is still getting developed on. As you can see here, we've just had a recent update which we'll go over as well in this. We'll be continuing on from where I've left off. If you are interested in picking up the game, well, again, I'm hoping this will help you make that decision if you're on the fence. And if you are interested in seeing more after this review, then there is a long-running series on the channel. It's over 100 episodes long. If you're wanting to dig into some content, have it on the other monitor while you're playing, maybe give you some base building ideas of your own. But yeah, without further ado, so first things that I'll get to, and the first thing that you'll probably come across when you're playing the game, is when you start talking to like characters. Now, I don't think they'll talk to me anymore because there's no dialogue at this point. I've beaten the game, so I'm fairly certain even if I go to like the shop and things, they don't actually say anything to you anymore. They just like wave and that's about it. But I think I must have bought out the shop last time I were on. But yeah, you get this, you get these characters that honestly look a bit, they're very uncanny valley, if you get my meaning. They really are. And even when they are talking to you, the lip sync of the characters is completely off. So they'll be talking and it just doesn't look right. This is all on the latest version of the Unreal Engine as well. Well, I say latest when it released. So it'll have been Unreal Engine 5. I think I might actually buy those resource storages as well, just while I'm here. Mind you, I'll think about it. But yeah, the game has just been recently updated. The shops should offer a wide variety of things now, which is good to see. You've got an entire base to roam around when you first get here. We don't have to just use this teleporter here. Like, you can bring up the map by pressing M and just teleport to different sections of the map so you're not running around after everyone. But you can if you want to. Like, literally I can run back to the main area from here and I'll do so in a minute. But this is what I mean when I say some of the characters are just like weird looking. Like Levy here, who's like meant to be the hard ass on your case all the way through the story. Like, his hair is just weirdly shiny and got weird shadows on it. And whenever you're talking to him in the cutscene, and his eyes look a little bit, just like the tiniest by like a millimeter cross-eyed or something. So the characters, and they're all kind of like this. Like, this black guy here looks alright, no up with him, but then you take a few steps back and you can see half his head goes like a funny colour because it's like deloaded or something, you know, it's like gone to like a lower poly version of his head or something. So you kind of see like the back of his head and hair pop in. And there's just a bit of that with pretty much all the characters in the game. Like, this lass looks like she's tired all the time, and it's just to do with like facial expressions. And again, when they start talking, they're just basically, the lip syncing makes them look like they're just making goldfish movements with their mouth while words come out. And it's badly written, and not just that, but it's badly recorded, and you get this kind of like these weird stilted bits of dialogue, and there'll be like long pauses between them talking, almost as if the conversation finishes, and then they start the conversation again, and it's very weird. Again, I can't really show it now, but it's not very great. So I'm gonna say it's in part down to it being my understanding. I think this is a Chinese game. I want to say. It's by a place called Team Ranger, and I think it's their first major project. I think it might be the first game overall, but it definitely shows with the character and animations and things and the cutscenes. They are particularly bad. It's not a massive problem. It's more of a little niggle. I'll just put it out there. If you're here for really good in-depth storytelling and amazing dialogue and lore, you have absolutely come to the wrong place. This is not a really good story-driven narrative experience or anything. This game it's gameplay first and foremost, and you'll be happy to know they do get that right, but at the expense of the cutscenes and characters all being a bit wonky looking. We can go here though, and we can look at some of the weapon customization. So you'll notice, like, for example, this is my main primary weapon. The weapons are extremely good and customizable here. Each weapon has a number of slots for different fire modes, and when I say fire modes, these are completely different. It's not just like, ooh, you've got automatic and semi-automatic. It's like, no, this one is a rapid missile, like a rapid firing missile launcher, and you can then increase them. You can then further change its parameters by adding lots of different additional what do you call it, boosters here. So this is like your main weapon, and these modify it. So for example, increase damage dealt to enemies from behind, and these have different qualities. You'll notice there's a tiered quality system to them. So I've got a legendary spray cannon, as it's called, that fires light missiles at a rather high firing rate. Now, high firing rate for a missile launcher, it's still very slow firing, but damage rotors slightly increase rate of fire and increase damage. And you can see the damage, the ammo cost, and the firing interval. So it will fire, because I've got a bunch of these things on that increase firing rate and damage. It's going to fire at 0.7 seconds between shots, dealing a total of 9.5 damage. And it costs 25 ammo to fire. So when you load your gun, it just loads it with like essentially an ammo counter. And then dependent on the weapon and all the modifiers that you're using, it subtracts that amount from the ammo counter. Thankfully, it does the maths for you. At the back of the gun, it just has an ammo count that tells you how many full shots you have left, thankfully. You can go to the shooting range as well down here. There's a pretty good robust shooting range. And I'll just show you the rest of these, and then we'll head to the shooting range and give it a shot. So we've got a cluster missile here, which has massive increased damage and moderately increased cost to it. Then it's got increased damage, increased damage, increased damage, and another that slightly increases cost and increases damage. I could probably modify this a bit now. I think I've got condensed 2 a few times since then, so I could probably add that on a few times. But you can kind of see as well, like, yeah, it's kind of insane all the stuff you can do. Yeah, so we've got condensed 2 here, so we can put that on again. We've also got strong. This is strong 3, which is a purple item. I believe I saw, yeah, strong 4, and we've just got enough to replace all of them if we want. We won't put more condensed on there, because I think it'll start getting to the point where even with a full magazine I won't be able to fire the thing at this rate. But this one is a heroic version of the missile launcher. It's the cluster missile, which splits into 7 missiles at a distance of 5 meters away from the target. And then we've just, yeah, massively increased damage, but moderately increased ammo cost. We've got that twice. And then we've got this one that just increases damage. We've got a load that hitting a turret restores ammo to it, but we've also then buffed it with some modifiers that mend, so hitting friendly buildings heals it. And it slightly reduces the ammo cost as well at the end. So Basically, this one, if we swap our gun to this mode, it becomes a healing and reloading gun. So we can we can repair and reload turrets on the fly in the field if we need to. And then lastly, we've just got another missile, which has got battering ram, which when hitting neutral units or buildings, it'll do increased damage, which is really good for if you want to open locked doors. You don't need a key. There's a lot of doors in the game that will either want a large amount of resources to open them, or if you want, you can use a key card if you happen to have one. But it's a bit of an annoying system. There are different types of key cards in the world that you can find, and there's like 4 different ones. Because of that, it means that having the appropriate key card, unless you specifically took it with you, isn't likely. You know, because it's like, well, you might have a key card, but it might be the wrong type of key card, and you end up having to spend the resources, but it's a lot of resources to open these things. When you can just put one of your fire modes, just be a giant, you know, do-it-yourself key, why not? Anyway, to just kind of get the point across that yes, there's a lot of weapon customization, so you can see here we're firing these missiles and they do a lot of damage. And you can kind of tinker with them here. You can look at all the stats up at the top. You can even control them, move them away, make them approach, reset the stats, reset the target if you're wanting to keep track of DPS and things. We can swap to our big cluster bomb, and you see what I mean, we have to kind of reload it before we fire, and yeah, that will absolutely devastate things. Our door unlocker, you'll notice now, it does do a lot of damage because it is still a missile, but it doesn't do much more than our missile attached number 1. You'll notice as well on the bottom right there, we've got cooldowns on these. So we can load up one of our turrets every few seconds. Our cluster bomb is still on cooldown. Our skeleton key missile takes a good 15 seconds to reload. But our spray cannon missile, this is our main weapon, we can kind of do this with. It's rather nippy for the type of weapon it is. As you can see on the back of the gun, rather than saying 180 ammo loaded, it does still show 180. But the big number is how many shots that's going to give you, so that you can still, at a glance, without having to do any division in your head. You know, the last thing you want to be doing while you're firing your gun is doing long division and things. You can do some very funny things with this, like we can use the missiles to make us fly. There's no fall damage, so... And we've even got these special abilities on the bottom, which reduce cooldowns on weapons and stop us having to use ammo. So right now we're not using ammo. And then that's worn off. You can see both of those are now on a cooldown, and we're back to using ammo again. You can see the count going down. So different characters have different abilities. Like one's got like a sword, one's got a reusable missile launcher that's mounted to their shoulder. Another one gets like a guardian turret, and there's some cool stuff you can do. And just to kind of, as a last bit for the weapon customization, so there's a full-on character equip system here, where you can then put on all the other stuff that you want. So we're using a legendary gun, we've got a legendary shield sight, so when I aim you can see this shield comes up. So when enemies fire back at me, they have to break this shield before they can start damaging me. We've got you can choose a stock, you can choose an underbarrel, which can be grips, underbarrel lasers, or in this case a grenade launcher, and we've got a scattershot barrel, so it enables a 3-shot burst, but each bullet deals less damage. So you'll notice when I fire that 3 missiles actually come out. Sometimes weirdly they don't go off and they bounce around a bit. Like just a bit of a failure to launch. I'll see if I can fire a bit further away. You can see there the spread. So it's more like a missile shotgun that I've developed. And this is kind of the point I'm getting at, that you've got these really crazy, wacky combos with the weapons, and it can get quite extreme. Like, you absolutely 100% can, if you want to, just put a load of, like, damage modifiers, like that condensed thing I was using. If you put 5 of those onto, like, a giant sniper bullet, you could probably one-shot, like, most enemies in the game, apart from bosses. And even then, the bosses, you'd probably be able to hit them as hard as as one of your base's cannons would. So you can get it to be pretty extreme. And as we've seen, when you go and say put a load of missiles, that, you know, we've got a thing here that splits into 7 missiles on something that fires 3 of each projectile that it fires, and you end up with basically an artillery strike. Which is quite humorous. So I've done a really good job with the weapon customization. We'll return to the base though, and we'll get started on a bit of a tour. We'll do a run. We'll do it very quickly though, because the runs in this game can take quite a long time. I don't know why it's put me in the medical centre coming out of there. It usually puts you. Maybe that's a new thing that they've. Maybe a new bug that they've created, because normally it would put you in the. What's it? Yeah, normally it would put you into the research centre again. I don't know why it's put me here. There's the base. But you can see here as well what I mean when I say, yeah, we can just kind of wander about the base. There's a shop. Is this where we go? If we're lost, I might just... No, that's... We've ended up going round in a circle. Right. We'll just head out here. I don't usually walk around the base. I usually just teleport about to save time. So I don't really know my way around yet. But yeah, and in case you're wondering, so long as you've got the parts on you, yes, you absolutely can do all of this customization and things, all on the fly. So if I find a new helmet or some new a new barrel or a new gun that I want to mess around with, I can just swap this out on the fly. I can just pull this down here and put it back while I'm in the middle of a mission, right? So it's honestly, I don't think I could ask for much more with the weapon customization. It's pretty damn good. As I say, you've got a whole roster of characters that you unlock as you go through. You'll find more and more people. Those that you're not taking on missions, you can set on like little side missions over in the intelligence center, so they'll go and do little side quests and report back to you and give you the loot afterwards. But in the meantime, the ones who aren't doing either of those things, you can set onto different areas of the base here, and based on their combat rating, which is a mixture of their level and their equipment, so it's calculated based on that, you can improve the abilities of each location. So we get improved stuff here, improved barracks, improved intelligence center, trade port, and you can kind of see the different things that we're getting here. So the research center, it reduces the time and cost to do things. The barracks, it makes everyone get more XP, and you can put more people there training. Intel, it means that they're less likely to get into accidents, they come back from missions faster, and so on. Trade port, there's more stuff on sale, and it reduces the prices of these things. And that's kind of it, but it's pretty good. There's a little bit of an XCOM element in there. All of your characters as well can, if they do fall in battle, they might end up at the medical centre. I believe I've changed this as well lately. The medical centre, it used to be that there was a chance they would come back there. I think everyone gets one for free now. So everyone basically, they will always go to the medical centre the first time they die now. again, I've not tried this, it's been in a very recent patch, but I remember seeing in the patch notes. So the first time they go down, they'll go to the medical centre, but subsequent times it's a chance, so you can lose operatives, and if their gear isn't insured, because you can purchase gear insurance, then you'll lose the gear as well, which it's more important, the gear insurance, for when it's stuff that you've personally put together and it's the stuff that you take out on missions. Otherwise, you know, you can just kind of throw on whatever you've got in the warehouse. You end up with a lot of surplus gear that you don't use anymore. And that's another thing as well. It's not just the weapons that have got like cool stuff. Like each bit of gear here, like this one, scan gloves will highlight items in the area when I scan. So things nearby me will get scanned and stuff like that. Burst boots give you a double jump. There's the ones that let you like hover around and fly and stuff, and like computing armor here reduces the ammo cost when reloading from an empty magazine. I think there's the ones that like buff turrets when you personally get on and use them and stuff like that. But there's some cool stuff you can do with the armor. And as you can see, you get these like different ones here, like attack increased by 500 when mounting a turret. So you can find some other things here. Evasion boots enables longer horizontal evades and grants 2 stacks of acceleration charges. But on this one here, weak spot helmet. Hitting a weak spot triggers an electronic explosion with a cooldown of 2 seconds. Increase explosion area and damage. So you can get some cool stuff, and they've all got like little modifiers on as well, like movement speed, armor, defense. There's also like weak spot bonus. There's like critical damage. So it's quite in depth with what you can do as well. So they've done an absolutely excellent job on that, I must admit. But of course, then this is all kind of superfluous to what's actually good about the game here. Like this is all nice, but these are all extras. Like the real meat of the game is in building a giant outpost. I mean, it's Outpost Infinity Siege. So it's all about creating a big outpost that's going to survive against waves and waves of enemies. And yeah, they get it right. In a move that surprises absolutely nobody. Yes, they got this right. So as you can see, we can build quite the behemoth here. Now I do need to make some edits to this, because since I was last on, I have used up these twin mill 105 barrels. I've kind of created an upgraded version of the artillery, so I can no longer really use those properly. Which means that probably I'm going to want to... Oh, when it gives me a moment, there we go. Right. What I really need to do at this point is to probably find a way to, and I think I know what I'm going to do. But you can kind of see what you're able to do with the base building here as well. And it's quite a robust system. Like there's a lot that you can do with the base building. So here I'm going to basically move this giant cruiser cannon to the sides here, and then I'm going to put another one over here. So essentially what I did last time on the Let's Play I've been doing of this is I've essentially taken those 105 twin barrel artillery systems, and I've upgraded them, and I'm now replacing them with these cruiser cannons. So these are like the upgrade of them, and essentially now we've got 2 of these instead of those other artillery pieces. Now once we've got them on, we can go to the, where is it? Adjust mode on the top here, and we can select both of these, and we can configure the turrets, and we don't want them firing at medium and large units. We want to fire them up to maximum range only at the bosses. So these are like mini bosses, and these massive units are the big bosses of the game. And we're going to confirm that, and then we can go back to the edit. So you can do quite a lot. The way that the base building works, essentially, the way that it's kind of set up, is it's really all about getting ammo fed to all your guns. So we've got all these guns set up. So it's what it comes down to is getting different guns for the right job, and then setting up basically ammo feeding systems to those weapons. So we've got these Hellfire turrets. These are kind of our, basically our bread and butter. They'll kind of do it all, the Hellfire turrets. They are essentially quad miniguns mounted on this giant turret. They do a massive amount of damage, absolutely shred everything. We've got the, so they're basically going to do all the chaff clear. They'll get rid of all the little hordes, all the little minions. These bigger cannons are more powerful but fire a lot more slowly. Now we've got a bunch of these, and they have been set to a shorter range, and they're going to only target medium and above enemies, so they're not going to deal with the small fry. The Hellfires will try to deal with absolutely everything, but when inevitably some of the bigger units come along, they'll start shooting at them. If they can't deal with them and they get a little bit closer, the cannons open up. Right? It's also at this point that we've got the, and I had to look at what these were, the close-in weapon support, weapon system. Yeah, the close-in weapon system. These are essentially point defences. They can deal with enemies that are coming in, and they are set to shoot at everything, but the missiles are going to take priority, because we can set priorities for different enemy types. They're mostly there to fire down enemy missiles and incoming fire, so that our base doesn't take too much damage. And then lastly, as we've seen for the bosses, the big kind of boss taking down weapons are these electromag cruiser cannons. Finally, to finish on, we've got two weapons that we have to, well, we've got two more weapons. We've got these rocket arrays, which are on large and above. I have to manually enable those to auto fire when I want them to fire. And then we've got the nuke silo. This one, you can't configure it. You use it almost like an active ability on the base, where we press on the nuke silo to launch a missile. We select the target area and tell it to launch there. It'll open up, fire away, then there'll be, I think it's like a 3-4 minute cooldown or something before you can fire another one. And it'll just lay waste to everything in Right, one small coughing fit later, I'm back. Got myself a bit of a drink, so... Right, as I was saying though, nuke, it'll just level everything. It's cool as well. There's a big, obviously big particle effect, you know, quite flashing that. And then like a sandstorm rolls in, like there's weather effects in the game. So it can be like rainy or snowy. And it does change the floor and the environment as well. Like if snow starts falling, all the floor goes white and the trees get covered and everything. It's quite cool. But yeah, with this, a sandstorm immediately rolls in after you've used it. And it disables command mode for a few moments due to the electromagnetic interference and things. Which is honestly very cool, I'll admit. It really does feel like you've just gone and hit the big red button when you do it. Right, well that's kind of the basics of the base building. The other thing you really need to worry about, so you'll notice there's these like giant things here with little lines connecting to everything. There are autoloaders. And we've got these ammo makers next to them, so they're going to grab things from this square area that gets marked. So when you put these down, there's a little square behind them, and any ammo that appears in that area will get sucked up. And the reason why it's quite important that it's not just like, ooh, any ammo nearby or like that, it's in that area, and the reason why is because you can make, as well as these ammo makers that you place down, and you have to like manually go and click on them and tell them to build things. And you can like shift click on them and select all, but these have like a 1 minute cooldown. You'd have to click on all of them and then tell them to build and that, and you'd have to then wait a minute. You can get, and this is why it's important that you make note that it loads from there. If we look here, you can get, where is it? I think it's so we've got a round producer. This produces artillery shells, and we've got an advanced ammo maker. These have a shorter cooldown because they're a legendary variant. But they can be toggled on to just keep producing automatically. So you won't have to keep selecting them every minute and telling them to produce more ammo. With these, you'll simply turn them on and leave them, and they'll just produce ammo. Or artillery shells. In addition, not only will they produce those, but you've got conveyor belts. I'm at the point of the game where I can probably start considering making these conveyors. And I'm probably going to start doing that soon enough. But for now, I'm still at a point where I mostly just have these manual ammo makers that are positioned right next to the autoloaders, so I push the button to make ammo. Each one of these will make a box of ammo, so there'll be 4 boxes, and they'll just get fed into the autoloader. But yeah, you'll be happy to know that the base building is honestly second to none. I think this is the most robust base building I've ever seen in a game. It's even got this like X-ray mode that we can toggle on here, where we can we press F to toggle it on, and then you hold shift and just scroll up and down, and you can just go up through the different floors of your base in case you need to edit some of the interior, but you don't want it to be, you don't want to have to take everything apart to get at it. It's genuinely fantastic. The only thing that I can say that I'm not particularly keen of is there are basically 2 limitations on this, which is that firstly, everything has to be connected to kind of like to the floor essentially. So if I wanted to make a new level up above somewhere, I have to connect up to it. So if I say I wanted to add another floor to the base, it would have to be connected via stairs to this floor, right? And somehow, through these connections through stairs and floors, it has to connect to what's called the core tower here. So we've got this core tower. As you can see, it kind of goes all the way down through your base. It's like this great big tower. If the core tower is destroyed, you lose the game as well. So it really is the central piece of your game. But you'll see all these little utility tiles all connect up to it, all these floors, and so does everything else. They're all connected up. But it means, for example, if I wanted to, because you think, oh well, that's not bad, all your floors have to be connected. But let's say I wanted to just build a big wall. Yeah, if I want to just build up here, this is an invalid placement now. So I can't make a great big wall, even if I don't want to have floors going through it. It won't really let you do that. Which is a bit of a shame. So just having like structural bits hanging off the side or like that, even if it's just for aesthetic reasons, you can't really do. Other than that, there's not much in terms of restrictions on it. I wouldn't mind if instead of just stairs, if it were say maybe ladders, or if you could hold parts up, even if they're not connected to things, as long as it's say on a structure, maybe like a pillar that's touching the floor or something like that. It seems to me like that should make sense. That said, I've not fully tested it. I'm not sure if, because it's coming up saying like, oh, this is unpowered, right? I don't know if that means that when the game starts, that's just gonna drop off, or it means it's maybe it's non-functional. Like if I put an armoured panel on where it won't actually, well, not an armoured panel, it'd be an armoured wall. If I put this up here, I don't know if that even, my worry is that that's like a only going to have like 1 or 2 health or something and just drop off because it's not powered. I don't quite know how that works, if I'm allowed to have unpowered things. At the very least, I know that it will still show all this crap on it, so if you're wanting to add on structural bits and big walls just to make them aesthetically make the base look better, even if they're not connected to a floor, they will still look like that in game. They'll be all ugly and highlighted and blue, so there's not much point. Only other thing as well that's a restriction, because I wanted to like turn the top of the core tower into a bridge. I was going to like connect it all up. You can't actually build on top of this. There's almost like a invisible wall that just goes kind of around the core tower and directly up to the build height. You cannot place things above this because you spawn here, so I've just prevented you entirely from placing things here. Which is fair enough, but it would have been nice to have been able to play around with, you know, build around the whole thing, turn it into almost like a helipad, or turn it into like a spaceship bridge, you know, for the whole thing. So, it has its limitations, but overall, the building experience is absolutely fantastic, which is what you would expect and what you would want from a game that's pretty much entirely about base building. Right. And in case you're wondering as well, yes, there's even more fun and better toys than even this, which includes, like at the back here, we've just got this wall of turrets to defend us should anything spawn behind us, and just this giant hangar setup where we've got a bunch of mech suits. So, oh, actually no, I wanted to save my changes, didn't I, for the for those big turrets. I'll be one moment. I'll mention as well, just before you go, like there's some useful tools, like for example I can drag this along and just add a bunch of stuff. You know, so you could for example, you know, oh, I want a new wall along here. Boom. Yeah. There's an undo, there's a redo. There's a lot of stuff. There's like connection bonuses as well, so connecting armor to a panel doesn't just make that panel armored, but the ones next to it get a bonus as well. So, for example, this armored wall, you put this here, and you can see a bunch of different like plus health things coming up, because they actually get this connection bonus. So basically, if you put a load of like armored walls next to a load, all the floor tiles next to them become more armored, and the same way when there's a number of armored walls all connected. So important to look out for your connections as well. But it's quite, again, it's a good, interesting system they've got with the base building. Definitely one of the things they've truly done an excellent job with. Right. We'll configure these and we'll get into a proper match. Oh, a maximum range, thank you. Right. That should work. Oh, and there's a new feature as well, actually, before I finish. So we've got all 4 of these autoloaders. Actually, okay, yeah. Yeah, I think you have to select them all individually, but you can see there's a new feature down here. Use stocked ammo and shells to reload. So now, then this is literally in the latest patch, so that they are still updating this game even now. But you have this ability now. You couldn't do this previously. If you wanted to do this previously, you'd have to just bring loads of ammo in your inventory, so you'd only be able to carry so much. But now you can preload all of your autoloaders from your ammo stockpiles in your in the main base here. So before going in, I just toggle those buttons on. We'll save our changes, and it will go into the warehouse here, and it's going to look at, on our other tab, all of these shells that I've stocked up and all these ammo crates, and it's going to grab from those. Which is another thing, if you've got any ammo loaded into those autoloaders when the game ends, when you extract, they'll automatically be sent to the warehouse. That's why I've got so many. But yeah, we'll end up with, so since we can preload those, yeah, we're going to end up with a lot of ammo and shells here. We're going to be able to just get it all preloaded, and we can basically just sit and kind of not even really need to do all that much now. With a base as good as this, there's not much we need to do, and we won't need to go out looking for tons of resources as we go about, because we can now get all that filled in by itself. One thing I used to have to do a lot of was, when I were going around, I'd have to do a lot of salvaging for resources. So we've now got a base. Yeah, we can tell it to reload. Very nice. So it's even enabled here in case you forget. And we can, even before you go, you can change your operative, you can do a quick last check on your backpack, move things over. And we'll go into the biggest, nastiest area in the game to get more stuff. And our outpost value is now at well over 500,000, which is pretty ridiculous. Right. Let's roll. We'll do one of these manually, and then we'll just kind of yeah, so we'll do one. We'll go to one of these areas manually. I'll show you how the looting and that works, and then we'll probably just skip through as many as we can from then on. So we get the choice to instant loot or proceed. You'll notice that instant loot costs twice as much. This is kind of, it's good and bad, and we're kind of getting into like my thoughts, like how the game should flow here at this point, because it's a bit of a point of contention, I think, this for me. Right, we'll head in. So proceeding manually means that we have to physically go there, and we will get loaded into a map, and we will loot the place ourselves, right? So we'll load in. It takes it a minute, obviously it's Unreal Engine 5, so I will put it out there as well, being an Unreal Engine 5 game. You can kind of tell that it's obviously a bit janky, like that's not the most amazing rubble I've ever seen. It seems very much like a bit perfectly cut, like there's perfect edges on there and stuff, and it's not fantastic, but the game does still look very good. Like, I think if this were made 2 or 3 years prior to this would probably look a lot better. Like, it would look a lot worse if it were made a bit earlier. Because I think Unreal Engine 5 has gone a long way with a lot of modern games now to making it so that smaller companies like this can make some fabulous looking games, even though they might not necessarily have before had the people and manpower in order to be able to really do that. Right. So I should probably get started. As you go through the as you go through these areas, basically it spawns you into a preset map. And the way it works, just as an example, because this is one of the more common ones, this map has 5 spawn points. There's one here, one there, one here, one for this building here, and one for this little hangar thing here. On these spawn points, certain buildings and points of interest can spawn. So sometimes this is like a big tower that basically you play basketball on, and if you succeed, it opens up a bunch of lockboxes, right? And it's literally like those basketball machines you find in like arcades, where there's a hoop, you get like 3 or 4 basketballs, you have to throw them in and you get a high score. It's basically that. So it can spawn that in. It can just spawn a big tower full of loot. That's what this one is. So this is just a big tower full of loot. In this instance, it spawned a charge tower. This thing at the bottom, we can grab this little plug thing here, and we can plug that into our base. Then, when we've gotten it, when we've gotten that plug and we've strapped it into our base, what we can do then is we throw, and again it's the basketball, into a hoop, and if we manage it, based on the amount of distance that it travelled, we'll get some charge for our base. The power, by the way, this charge we're getting, is used for progressing through the map, so keeping your base like powered and fueled and that, quite important if you want to be able to progress further through the map, to get more items and loot and modifiers and things. And you'll see that as we go. This one here, it's spawned in a shipping container. It's got a bit of loot, but nothing special. And it's spawned in the car with spare tyres. So you get this one here. If anyone reads this, please don't take my tyres. The car still works. And you can take the tyres and you'll get some basic resources for them, but will not be a nasty sod. Even though I don't think it actually matters or anything, but still. This one, it's a tower full of loot, but there's a puzzle to it. The puzzle is you find the terminal. Because we've got scan gloves as well, it actually marks the terminal as well. And what that does is it opens up this shipping container on the side of it that is mostly full of rubbish, except from this safe, which then has some rare items. And then we've just found there a 4090 graphics card. If you're wondering, yeah, you just sell it for a lot of money, because of course you do. It's a 4090. And you'll notice that the areas that have spawned in aren't exactly great for loot. So we're not finding tons of stuff here. And the stuff we are finding isn't particularly great. What I'm going to do in the meantime, we can go down to our combat miner here. So, in addition to having our base, we've got a number of structures that I can place as well. One of them is the combat miner. We need a few more materials to build that, and it looks like we've got enough now. Our materials, by the way, this is our power here, and this is our resources. The caps for these are based on the amount of boxes inside the base that we've got laid out for them. So inside the base, on some of the other floors, there are just loads and loads of like battery cells and giant material storage crates. If when I was looking through the base you were wondering what all those boxes in the middle were, that's basically it. And they increase the cap for resources. So, essentially, what that means is we can harvest up to 14,000 material. And material is used for building these structures. And we've got so much power which can be used to... the power is mostly used... it's used for building some things, but not everything. And it's mostly used to progress the map. It can also be used to like upgrade buildings if upgrades are available for them. I don't think there's upgrades available for... We can activate an overload ability, for example, for 15 seconds that gives them ridiculous firing speed and attack on certain turrets. That costs 15 power. But yeah, it's used for like using abilities and sometimes building things or activating like outposts and stuff. It can be used for opening doors. So power's used for a lot more stuff outside of just building things. So you want to keep your power quite high because of that. You can also burn materials to create power. So we can do that as well if we feel like we want to exchange resources, but we can't turn power into materials unless we find something to salvage. So you can go to like some wreckage sometimes that you find, and you can use power to salvage it, and it'll give you materials in exchange. So this is the, as I mentioned, the charge tower. That's plugged onto our base. We throw that little ball in from the top, and we get some power back. The Rex I mentioned, so we've got this. What I've done instead, these combat miners will mine nearby mineable materials, such as the tree here. So if I went to the tree, we can chop it down, it'll give us some logs, and it'll give us some materials. The logs being literally an item that goes in your inventory. By putting a miner there, that's going to do that for me. And the miner only costs 100 materials to make. So rather than using power, I'm using a few materials to gain way more materials overall. It looks like it's spawned a trader in here. We can talk to him.
Most welcome. For the right price, nothing's off the table.
You have to wait for his dialogue to finish.
Fine indeed. Perhaps you'd be interested in my services.
And so we can talk. We can trade either 500 resources or a turret, and he'll give us something in return. It's usually like a basic like robot companion. It's not very good. It's probably only worth a few hundred materials. We'll probably be overpaying for it. Sometimes it gives you a mech, which is a lot better, but most of the time it's just a little robot companion. Anyway, that kind of gives you the general gist and the rundown of scavenging. You can even see now, we've had a blizzard roll in, and as you can see it's gone all snowy. The weather effects are very good, very nice. They've done a good job with it. But, and I think that's the thing, it's a really good game, and all the mechanics are kind of there. but it's just kind of a little bit janky. Like with the trader there, you have to wait till he's finished talking every single time you meet him. And he doesn't show you exactly what he's going to give you. Just little weird design decisions like that. And again, just like dodgy lip syncs and things like that. It's just got that little bit of jank about it. Not a crazy amount. And they've definitely gone a long way since launch. At launch, I used to get quite a few crashes. Like, not a crazy amount, but quite a few. Now, it's fairly rare. Anyway, we'll bring this to a close. We'll open this container, and we can just shift click on our items. It'll move them over, and we can just kind of throw everything in here. We can also open the care package in our inventory. We got this from that drone that we shot down, and we get some extra parts. Right. Then we choose to extract. It's going to take that container all the way up the tower. You can see it then like go up out the top of the tower. And it's a bit foggy and things at the moment. So you can't really see it perfectly, but usually that goes right off into the sky and it goes like toward the big base that you come from. But you can't really see that at the moment. What's an interesting fact as well is all of the actual maps that we'll be going on as we do this. So you'll begin to recognise certain areas. Like for example, I believe that here is one of the other maps I think that you can get here. And there's, I think the final fight versus like the big bad enemy is somewhere at the other side of the city. But yeah, they are actually all interconnected. Like they've basically made one giant map. Oh, you can see as well now where the tethers go to. You can kind of see it. I guess they do just kind of end in the middle of the sky. Yeah. Anyway. But yeah, they are actually like an interconnected map. And each different area is one of the different locations you can end up fighting the enemies on. But obviously they're not actually full of stuff now. It's not an open world game. Anyway, we'll head on out. When we've finished, we get a choice of we get a choice of reward. We can increase the backpack space of all the combat operatives for this tour. Or we can choose a machine gun tower mounted to the actual core tower. We'll go for the machine gun. Why not? Actually, well, we probably don't need it. Thing is, I'm probably not going to do much more scavenging. We're just going to kind of do a quick run through here just to give you an idea. Right. We can proceed to Lakeside Town. This is a very small map, so we can do another quick run through. Then we'll just auto-loot all the rest. I should also point out, not all of the maps are danger-free. Some of them you will see danger marked on them when you press on the map. It'll say, oh, this one's dangerous. That means there will be a number of enemies. There can be different objectives as well on the maps. So some of them will have you loot a specific item, but some of them will spawn in like special enemies that will, maybe if they see you, it'll send more enemies after you, or some will spawn in. On certain maps as well where there are well, where there is an enemy presence, you can get these chaser units, which are like these weird dog things that hound you down. And I'm not 100% on the idea of those, mostly just because they don't really work. Again, when I say there's a fair bit of jank, you find that a lot of the enemies have very poor pathfinding. Now, for the most part, it doesn't matter, because most of the game takes place in this kind of wave defense strategy mode, and that's really where a lot of the fun of the game is. So the fact that in these mission bits here, the pathfinding isn't brilliant isn't the end of the world. Even though I kind of wish they did a bit of a better job of it. But I'm also not really keen on like the side objectives for a lot of these missions. Usually it's to bring like a specific item back, but usually it's a rubbish item that you don't even want. And you can't usually do anything with it. It might be like you get back to the base and it gives you 5 or 10 extra tech points. I might give you a couple £100. Just gonna take a sip of my pop here. Just to clear my throat. As you can see again, when I say it spawns in certain things, like this map, this is a guaranteed spawn. You will always get this truck which has a power pack on the back. You will always get this building. It will always be locked on this side, but you can kind of work your way through this way. And as well as that, I think there's sometimes, I think they might have removed it. There used to be a truck down here, but there's always one here. Sometimes there's stuff in the driver's seat. It's usually not very good though. But there's always something good in here. This will be something else. It'll always just be something else.
Warning. Blizzard outbreak.
And then back here, you get another spawn with something else over here. I think there's only 3 or 4 different things this can be. It's usually, yeah, like a shipping container, or it might be a little like, a little sort of like overhead shack thing with some boxes in and stuff.
Combat mode activated.
But we'll grab everything we can. What can be useful as well is not just can I do this like little personal scan that I've got that's to do with me having scan gloves. You can as well, for 2 power, do a manual scan from the core tower, and that will show you the radius on that is much larger. And as you can see, that's highlighted everything in the other buildings as well, because it's got a much longer range on it. It basically does like most of the map. So we'll head up here. It looks like there's not really much up here, but we'll give it a look. There'll at the very least be that ball that we need to charge our base. Sometimes, and it has as well happened this time, this has like a little turret on, which you can use. Trying to remember now how to get off it. There we are. I've honestly never seen that really be useful, the turret on there, but if it were a more dangerous area, maybe that would be quite useful for you. Oof. Oh, I've made a mistake as well. Charge strength 21, but you'll notice 1416 our current power. Even if we throw this on now, yeah, it doesn't add it. You have to do it in an order. Anyway, we can salvage this. And you notice that we get, for 10 power, we get about 100 resources, 100 materials. That's kind of the amount that you want to be going for. You want to, for every power that you spend on getting materials, you want at least 10 materials in exchange for. That's the typical exchange rate. Sometimes you can get more. To have a chance to cause a small explosion, we'll take that. We'll get the 30mm guns on our core tower, sure. We've got some items up here. We've got another constructing an artillery turret for free. Well, it says artillery turret, it means a 30mm light cannon. So, as you can see, there's, in addition to the regular rewards you get, by going to everywhere manually, you can come across these like comm station things that can give you additional awards. Now, I mentioned earlier I've got my my skeleton key missile. So rather than pay power for that, we can blast it open. And we've found some, you know, casually found some uranium on the floor, as you do. Oh, this is something as well. Sometimes you'll find these giant turrets in the game. Like we found one here. We can just kind of throw it. Well, we can just kind of use it. But what you can do, not that you would need to since it's just a basic machine gun turret. We've got far better stuff on our outpost. You can take that and attach it to one of your turrets. So literally I could go and strip one of the turrets off of my base. Wow, there's a lot of these in this one. Okay, this one is an actual artillery piece. But just as for example, we've got a repair muzzle here. So I can go to one of my turrets, pull the actual turret part of it, the actual the gun off of the base of the turret and replace it with this. For example, so you can't actually find repair turrets, you can't build these. These aren't something you can build for whatever reason. I could go over and literally tear the like the 30mm bit off one of these cannons and just strap the repair turret on, so that I've then got a repair turret if I wanted. So there's some interesting stuff you can do with it. We're going to throw everything here in the base now. I'm actually going to keep the gold, because gold can be used as a component, and we've not finished yet. We've still got this over here. But it can be used as a component when making artillery shells. You like put ammo boxes and a bit of gold. Yeah, it's got the... It's a bit of, you know, survival crafting sort of problem when it's like, oh, you use these items to make this thing, and the items make no sense. It's like, okay, so you take a box of ammo, you know, just a box of machine gun rounds, and a block of gold, and somehow it turns into an artillery shell. I don't know how, but it does. Classic, you know, survival crafting weirdness to it. Right, we'll set that to recovery. We'll close the store. We've now got a nice amount of materials as like a base to be able to get into the final part of the game here. So I'm going to start getting rid of these miners that are no longer in range of any resources. So they've kind of mined everything out around them at this point. This is still doing that one, so we'll leave it. But yeah, all the ones that have kind of finished, we're just going to remove, because I've got a limit of 9 that I can build.
Facility lost.
Oh, they're taking a moment, aren't they, to
Facility lost.
destroy themselves. I think they've made that take longer.
Facility lost.
Yeah, it didn't used to take as long.
Lost.
That must be a part of a new update, I guess. You'll notice as well, we've got a radius in which we can build. There's like this thin blue line going along here in a circle from our base. This is our build area that's kind of expanding out. It's what they call the X boost field in the game. There's actually two circles going outward. Like, it's a bit difficult to see because it looks like it enters the floor here. Again, a bit of the jankiness of the game, because this map is on an uneven, it's on a bit of uneven terrain. Like, you can kind of see the line going around here, right? And it extends up to there, and it keeps going around here. Then it overlaps with this one. It kind of comes around here. Then it kind of disappears into the floor around here. And then it re-emerges. It must go all the way around, I guess. And it re-emerges over here. So a lot of it's underground or whatever. But that's the X boost field around the base. It's based on your core power, which is up here. We've got core output. That's based on the number of generators that are running inside of the base. So I can select these here. We've got these generators. They even have an ability where they'll do some resource conversion from materials into power. That's kind of how you can swap these resources about. But the core tower amplifies your damage. So it gives you a damage modifier. It extends the build range from your outpost, and it also makes the scan that we use on our base have a wider range. So at the beginning, your scan might not even make it to these buildings when you first start the game, but by the end of the game, it's as big as the map is essentially. Speaking of the map, is the other blue circle that you can see. So that's where the other blue, that's what the other big, more highlighted blue circle is. That's the map boundary. And going outside of there, I think it literally just kills you. When I say they're an interconnected map as well, by the way, one of the other, like, final missions that you face on one of the days, I think it's for Snow Ruins, which is the one that you do before City Ruins. This is where the base would spawn, and you'd fight them up and down this hill. So it is literally like all one big map. Like down there by this big dam, that's another map. And you can kind of zoom out, and I think over there amongst all the ruins and things, I think, yeah, literally sometimes you would spawn just here, and it would put a shopping centre there that you run through and salvage stuff from, as well, like some big towers over here. But obviously it doesn't spawn them, and it's just kind of reusing the same map to make it just not look like the world ends when you get to here. It just doesn't load all the other stuff in, which is a shame. I think if it were an actual open world map and I could move the base around, it would be far more interesting as a game. Like, making the X-Boost field wider though, you can use these things called spikes here. These Titan spikes. And now you'll notice they have their own little circle around them. So now we can build outside of here, provided we can find an area that's not on too bad of a slope. And put a few more miners down that'll do some more work for us. But it is something that I kind of dislike about the game, in that the actual the actual base here, you move from location to location, but you don't actually drive it, and it's really disappointing. Like, I wish, even if it were just a case of like clicking where to go, if I could move this around and it were like a giant mobile tank, I would love this game so much more. I will say this, the goal of this game is to build a giant base and fight hordes of enemies, and it absolutely succeeds in this. For a new studio on the first major project, they have pretty much fully realised the vision of their game here, right? It doesn't miss the mark. No, I have got a giant base. It is absolutely just full of guns and ammo making robot things, and there's mechs on the back in a big hangar bay. I couldn't be happier. It's fantastic. But if I could literally have this on treads roaming around, there would be such a grin on my face. There really would be. It's a shame, but I think it would literally... Because you'll see when we get to the end and we start fighting the hordes of robots. I'm going to activate all our mechs here as well, while I'm just sat about. But as we get to the end, you'll kind of see that the game's performance as some of the larger waves come in leaves a bit to be desired. And because of that, you end up with... Yeah, it's... I think that if this were all moving as well, it would probably just freak out and lag and crash, most likely. I think that the reason that it's probably not moving around is probably due to, like, performance constraints more than anything. Anyway, I'll show off the mechs here for a moment. They are absolutely fantastic. Like, you have a boost button. This particular model, because it's one of the better mechs in the game, you can pretty much fly with it. It controls more like Flappy Bird than like a dogfighter or something, but still, you can actually fly. And you can use like the boost to move forward quickly if you want. But it's pretty good. You've got a kind of like an auto cannon on the left, and then a big grenade launch on the right. If you're wondering as well, the little display here in the centre, so you've got where it says 3,500, that's your health, and the circle around it is representing the health bar. The orange circle, not orange circle, sorry, the orange like bar to the right of it is our ammo. So as you can see, as I shoot and I start using the grenade launcher especially, that goes down. To the left of it is our, I guess, stamina gauge, but I think it's like fuel gauge or something on the mech that they call it, you know. But it essentially acts as stamina. This has a ridiculously large one. The basic mechs, it's quite small and it's mostly just used as a boost to help dodge things. But as you can see, this, it's basically infinite. It takes it a long time to recover because the stamina bar is so large, but it means that you can go on these huge long haul flights with it if you need to. Then as you see, I fire and you can see the left weapon there flickering. That's because it's actually representing the cooldown between shots. Like you can see when I fire the right one, it takes it a long time to like sort of charge back up and then light back up. But on the left it's practically instant because obviously it's a fast firing weapon. We'll get out and we can reload it. We can also set it to hold this position. We can set it on automatic to engage enemies that are around and move about a bit in the area. Or we can set it to follow and it will literally attempt to follow me. The pathing on the mechs is not great, but I will say, and this is true with a lot of the different units, so you can kind of jump, which is quite useful. The jump almost acts as like an unstick, get unstuck button. But you'll notice right away, it's already getting stuck. The terrain there is a bit uneven. I think it's getting a fuddle because of this snowdrift that's there. But you kind of get the idea of the mechs aren't great for pathing. It's figured it out, and it's away. They're particularly bad when it comes to, yeah, any kind of uneven terrain that can get stuck on, but it's not likely. Lampposts are literally the bane of their existence. Like, it's not happened here, but oftentimes they'll get stuck on lampposts. Yeah. What it is, I think the lamppost, this top bit here, I don't think they recognise that as being in the way. Because I don't think it... I think basically the way I think this is kind of buggered up for them is that this lamppost has... it's marked this up as being okay to path round. Because obviously this bit that comes out the top isn't on the floor. So the mech's like, oh, we can move around through here. But they actually end up clipping on this top bit and getting caught. So it's a pathfinding problem. Someone probably needs to go in and either make the top of the lampposts not have a collision, or they need to change the pathfinding around the lamppost so they avoid it. The same can happen with trees and like street signs and things, and it can lead to the mechs basically oftentimes you'll tell them to move somewhere, they'll get caught. Also, if you highlight a bunch of mechs at the same time, so firstly, sometimes they'll try to take a direct path and not really realise that there's stuff in the way. This one I think's got caught on its own hanger. It's better if you kind of tell them bit by bit, but I don't think you can actually chain together multiple movement commands, so that's a bit of a shame. Like, I can't hold shift and chain together multiple commands. I don't think I can do it with like control or alt or anything. But no, they're not great at pathfinding, and that one's got stuck on a tree. You get the idea. What I will say is the real-time strategy elements of the game leave something to be desired because of this. Because things are constantly getting caught, they're constantly getting stuck, and it is a bit of a, well, very literally a sticking point. We'll look at more of the strategy elements that we get to the end here. We'll call in the extraction now, and we'll move on. We've already done that, right, we'll just end exploration then. Right. So what we're going to do now is, for the rest of this, we'll just skip through. Because otherwise it'd be a massive video that would just never end. What we're going to do here as well, we've got one... So these incidents here can get quite interesting. And we've got a very interesting one here. So we could get a recruitment beacon. This is basically currency that you use to recruit new operatives. Essentially, just assume that this is a new randomly generated character that we can add to our roster. It's not that big of a deal because I've got a massive roster now. Upon completing recovery, though, instead, we can get 3 extra stacks of materials randomly chosen from orange quality or higher materials inside of the storage. So, stuff that we've found that's orange or higher quality, we'll get a bunch more of randomly. You know, randomly select a few of them and duplicate them. But it gives enemies an additional 30% attack and HP. We're going to take that, but this kind of gets to my point here, and we'll see this as we go along. So, a lot of these risk incidents will start becoming very interesting, and I mean very interesting. You see, what will start happening with these risk incidents is we'll start seeing things like, yeah, you'll get more items, but enemies will be tougher. And some of them synergize. Like, you can get one that's like enemies receive armor equal to like half of their HP, and then you can get another one that will double the effectiveness of enemy armor. But they'll give you, they'll duplicate like heroic rewards, or give you an extra stash of heroic materials when you finish the level, and stuff like that. You can also finagle this. You can also basically exploit it. We've got all this stuff in our storage, but that said, orange or higher things will get duplicated, and it specifically materials. The only two things in storage right now that could be targeted by that is this uranium canister and a nano chip. If at the end of this tour we remove some items from our field storage so that there's, say, only heroic materials in there, it will duplicate the heroics. So if we don't care about getting another nano chip, but we find a few more heroic items, we could ditch all of our oranges so that it only targets the heroics, thus duplicating them. A lot of other games had patched this sort of stuff out as an exploit, but they've kind of left it in, and I prefer it. It makes it fun, and it makes you think about what things you're picking up and what you're doing, which I quite like. Okay, we'll start instant looting anyway, and you'll notice our power will start to drop a lot. Like, here's one. Nebulas will arrive via drop pods, but we'll get a cache of heroic quality materials on the end of the final day. We'll take that. We also, from auto-looting the area, we get all this. Not bad. The pre-war park. And again, this is costing us a lot more power than it would to just go there. And that starts making you think, well, why not just go to every location and grab all the stuff? Well, you've seen how long it's taken us to do that. So the reason why is basically it would take it would take ages. Absolutely ages to do it. And yeah, it really would. You will be there for hours. Like typically I find that a run through can take anywhere from like 2 to 3 hours to do like a full tour. So at the moment we've been doing this about an hour since I started doing the actual tour. We've got one here. We'll get more money, but enemies will get more HP and attack. We'll go for it, sure. We've got a very strong base, so I can take most of these. So now we're going to get another 30%, but we'll get 200% of the valuables worth. We can do that. And you can see it's kind of ramping up in difficulty quite rapidly now. This time we can go for, let's see, boosted attack of our cannons. We can go for that. Now, I mentioned some of them would say danger on them. So if we went to this one, it would actually have some enemies spawn in. So, important to note. So some of them will actually have enemies. And doing things like blowing up doors rather than unlocking them. So if there's like a key card security door and we just shoot our way through, we'll spawn additional enemies in that then know where you are and come to chase you down. It sounds cool, but I'll warn you in game, the pathfinding on those enemies is rubbish. So they end up just derping around in a corner of the map or end up on top of buildings and things, not knowing what to do. It's like the spawn mechanics and pathing for them is rather poor. And again, you'll notice there's these little janky things in the game that you can tell that it's, oh, we can get a large recovery container for the final day, so we can, if we find anything at the end, we can throw them in there. But you kind of begin to notice that there's just a lot of this little bit of jank to everything. Upon completing recovery day, increase the amount recovered for all orange quality or higher. So we can do that again and get enemies get armor equal to 20% of their max HP. Right. Now, this would require a lot more power. We can do some power conversion here. I don't know why you have to do it bit by bit. It's a bit annoying. We're at 400 and there we are. If we just click on that again, it'll refresh the little tooltip thing here. So we could instant loot it. This is a big area, that's why it's got this different icon on. This is a massive area and there's usually guaranteed to be at least some like orange and heroic items here. So the loot pool is a lot better. But, oh, and what have we got here? Ah, so this is interesting. I mentioned that when you collect things, so I've been using miners because it uses a small amount of materials as opposed to using power to salvage things. If you get things like this quick collection where you get, this one increases speed. You can get another one that increases the amount, and it can stack. I've once had that stack, I think twice. And I would salvage something and it would give me basically a massive amount of materials so that it was worth me going and manually doing everything rather than just letting the miners do it for me. And I went and just deforested one of the maps and basically got enough materials to last me for the rest of the tour. We're going to go for this recovery one, so some of the tanks will now have a shield generator, but we'll get 100% value of everything in our storage. And it's given us some heroic items. We've got some heroic armor. I think that might be the first heroic armor I've found, actually. And we've got a... it's a heroic mod, but it just marks enemies and reduces the armor of them when they hit. It's not spectacular. Not like the giant cluster bomb that I have. But we're going to grab it. I don't want to use up the rest of our materials converting it to power because I want some materials for the final day. And we're gonna, because we need those to like build some items and units and things, so we're gonna call it there and return. And we're gonna take all here. I mean, I could, for example, go into field storage here, we can go to materials. And I could maybe... I guess what I could do, because it's going to target orange and higher, I could, for example, remove the nano chips and it would guaranteed duplicate uranium. But I think the way it works is that one of these can't target the same thing twice, I think. So this and the steel bastion here, I think will just duplicate the 2 nano chips and the uranium each. So they'll each just duplicate those. We'll get a bunch of additional money as well for all this. So I'm just going to throw it all in here. I think I'm probably going to have to equip that armor as well. That looks really good. Increases AoE damage. I'm actually going to put that on now. Right. We can also go for more hazards here. You'll just get a random one, and I think you have to take it. And we can do some more resource conversion up here if we want to convert into power so we can buy more hazards. So, but I don't tend to do this just because, again, it's you don't know what you're going to get. This up at the top as well shows that it kind of tracks how much stuff we're going to have to face. The more things you've looted, the nastier things you have to face. So we're going to face a set of mini bosses here. That's what the little triangle with the exclamation mark in means. We'll then face a second, third, fourth and fifth wave of enemies. And then we'll face another wave of mini bosses. So these are called apostle units. They're like enemy mech soldiers. Then we'll face half of a sixth wave, but not a full one. If it had have gone any longer, we would have gone into a seventh wave and a massive boss fight. Which is a shame I won't be able to show you the bosses, but we'll be able to see some mini bosses and you'll get an idea. The bosses, the actual bosses, are like giant robots that tower above the environment. and fire huge like waves of missiles and drones and things at you. They're absolutely incredible. But we'll go with this. We'll confirm. It'll at least give you an idea by seeing the mini bosses, like what you're up against here. So like some big mech troopers, kind of like those mechs we've got. They'll arrive and they'll have these giant overpowered weapons that can blow huge holes in your base if you don't watch out. At this stage of the game, with me having fully completed it at this point, we will basically just one-tap them with those cruiser cannons on the top. I mean, if we don't one-tap them, we'll certainly two-tap them. But I'll show you some of the real-time strategy elements at this point. We'll just kind of command and control from our base. I might show some mech combat off if we get a moment. So spawning in, it looks like it's a bit snowy at the moment. It'll tell us the attack directions they're coming in. Now remember, it's going to drop enemy nebulas onto our base. We did get that card. So they're an enemy type. It's like these weird, like, white mutant guys that basically just drop onto your base from above. Like, ships come along and literally airdrop them onto your base. And they're kind of freaky looking. To combat that, we're going to build these two turrets. Though before I do much else, we'll get some combat miners in. So these combat miners are going to mine these like boxes here. We're going to get them to mine these boxes here. There's some wreckage here that we can get them mining. I usually tend to, because there's a lot of wrecks here, put two up just there. I tend to put one over here nearby these wrecks and one over here by these wrecks. They'll also harvest the trees. I put one by this wreck here. And then typically I'll put one next to this wrecked helicopter and tank here. There. And then we can put one by this wrecked APC. Now, power is quite important. And I'll show you why. We'll do as much power conversion as we can there. So we've basically converted our materials into a few hundred power. We can now select all of these combat miners by double clicking, and then by holding shift and clicking we can mass upgrade all of them at the same time. So they'll now mine faster and they've got additional health. And that's used up most of the power and materials we've got. This is why we didn't want to go into the final area without any. And we're just going to let those mine away. At the moment we've got it on this bullet time mode over here, so you can kind of put a slowdown mode on. You can't pause the game. Well, you can from the menu. You can literally pause, but if you want to pause and still do things, you can put this bullet time mode on, so that you can make some quick decisions, move units about, give orders, purchase some things, build some stuff, and then put it back to normal speed and it'll carry on going. So you'll notice they're mining away now. We're getting quite a lot of material income. Enough so as to be able to build these base cores over here. So these like forward outposts we can put up. And we're going to go ahead and try to get all those built before we get to the time for the battle to start here. We are going to need a bit more power to do all of this. I think we're getting there. We've got most of it converted. Right, we can build this. We're going to need some more materials. Wait for it just to cover, and I might actually leave this centre one for now and focus using the materials we've got to build up some defences on the sides here. Right, I'm going to order our ranger here, if it can manage it, to walk over here, and we're going to do the same with this one. As you'll notice, it's already got stuck. But we're going to just walk them in here. Okay, looks like they're a bit too fat. We'll place them next to the tower, and they can still kind of help out from there. Right. So, they're wanting to defend that little tower base there. We've got a tower base over here. So, my main issues with the real-time strategy elements. So, first of all, yes, you can't really move your units around very well. They get stuck on things. The mechs in particular, because they're quite big, this is a real problem for them. The other things that we can do while we're in this commander mode, so like I said, we've slowed things down here, so we're using the bullet time, and I'm just going to build a number of turrets here. Now these are just basic machine gun turrets, so this is all determined by, you've got these, what they're called, deciphers in your base. I'll show you when I get a moment. But essentially there's little console in the base, little computer console. And each one of those adds, I think it lets me build like another 2 or 3 of these artillery formations. But it adds a few more on. And I've got one that allows me to build these walls, these spikes. I've got another one, I think I've got 3 for combat miners. I've got one that allows me to build a mini outpost, artillery, and so on and so forth, right? Now, we can build these, and I can configure it just like I would my actual guns on the base. So I'm going to tell the auto cannon to not target the smaller units. Then I'm going to build another artillery formation here. The artillery formations, so this was a card that we unlocked as a reward as we went through. Most of the time when we're building stuff, it's going to be these artillery formations, and we can upgrade them using power. So here I'm going to upgrade it into a 30mm, and we're going to tell it to not target small units. So they'll probably start attacking this tank here. And if we unpause it now that we've built everything, we can see that, yep, it's kind of working. Interestingly, if a building gets destroyed, like that turret got destroyed then, what we can actually do is, if they run out of ammo or if they get destroyed, rather than completely remove them, what I can instead do is upgrade them into something else, and it'll kind of rebuild the turret. So I'm going to build them into these cryo turrets that are going to fire like liquid nitrogen at them, which freezes them. And that should better hold these smaller chaff units at bay. It looks like they've managed to get through here, in spite of us having the mechs here defending. So we also start with a bunch of turrets here on the top, but these ones cannot, oh, they can actually be upgraded to Gatling gun turrets now. Here's a question, will that replenish the ammo on them? We'll find out later when they run out. I'm going to pull these back a bit, they're getting a bit overwhelmed. I'm also wanting to place around the base a few turrets just in case. Because you'll notice, with as well as these mechanical units, at the higher difficulties you get these weird alien burrowing jumpy things that look like some off Starship Troopers, called gamma units. And they can, because they can burrow, they can get very close to you before you get to shoot at them. And we don't want to really have to deal with those, because what they'll do is they'll get right up on our base before we can really get shots off on them, and then they'll just blow up our big turrets. So I'm going to build these cryo muzzles around the base, so these cryo muzzle turrets that will, if they try to do that, it'll freeze them here, and then our big turret can just shoot them. So they'll act as a little defense against that. So another thing we can do, so I mentioned like it's got RTS elements, so we can build this miniature outpost. I'm going to build this about here. That costs us 500 materials. I'm then going to configure this smart mortar to not fire at small units, and I'm going to do the same with this twin 30mm cannon here. Now, it's got these two things attached here, and I've got another one on my base here. These are called Guardian fabricators. So in addition to our mechs, we can make these. So I'm going to make some here, the MG variant, right? In fact, I'll wait till I've got a bit more money, but you can set a rallying point there. They'll all move to there on creation. Right, we've got enough cash now. We also get cash for destroying enemies. Like you'll notice when we destroy some of these, like little +3/+3, so we're getting resources for killing things. But yeah, these open up, and they all... I should have shift clicked as well, not just... yeah. And we've now got 3 guardians. So part of the problem with the Guardians is, so you can configure them like everything else, you can create different ones with different guns, but when you tell them to go somewhere, they all go to that point. And when you get to the point where there's maybe 6 or 7 of these, they all start trying to shove each other and they just start circling around it, and it can be quite annoying. Because you can get ones called pack mules that will hold your stuff as like extra inventory, and you can be trying to access them and they're all just circling around each other, and it can get a bit frustrating. A new thing in the most recent update though is that you can now upgrade these with what they call heavy guard here.
Guardian.
So they now no longer have 300 HP, they have 1500, so it's a big upgrade. Looks like as well these turrets are successfully keeping off these weird drop troops off my base, which is good. I'm gonna upgrade these, so it's got like 800 ammo. It looks like it doesn't actually upgrade the amount of it doesn't reload them either, which is unfortunate, because you can kinda sometimes when an upgrade gives ammo back to the weapon, it can be quite nice to exploit it so that you can basically just get 3 ammo. But yeah, so we can move these guardians up. One thing that you can do to avoid them, what you can do to avoid them getting stuck is order them to defend each other and create like a little daisy chain. That can help. But yeah, you're beginning to see like some of the real-time strategy elements here. We can enable the auto fire on this rocket now. I'll see if we can use a nuke as well before the end. But it's not bad, honestly. To keeping in mind that it's attempting to do basically a first-person shooter, a tower defense, and a real-time strategy all kind of melded together. It's doing a very good job, and you can get in the mechs and drive them, and it's just as fun as any other mech game. You can't really customize the mechs outside of just building different hangars and putting different hangars on your base, but it's still pretty good. To say that it's not a designated mech game, it's pretty good. Speaking of which, they're beginning to lose health and ammo now over there. We might want to just pull them back a bit closer to our turrets. Right, I can show off some of the artillery as well. We've got we can put a platform up here, which is pretty good. So looks like this is just a basic pre-war artillery thing, but we can set it to fire at bosses. You can even set it to direct fire, so rather than arc the shot, it'll just target them, which is quite good. Since this is high up, it can probably direct fire at them pretty well here. You can toggle auto fire on then. We've got the same set to our cruise barrels here, and you can set them to fire all barrels at once if you want, which can be quite interesting. Over here, I think I am now going to try and get, since we've got a little bit of a break in the swarm here, only a brief break, but it is a break nonetheless. We'll get some guns set up. I'm going to put these front ones on cryo. We're going to need some more power, so we'll convert some resources over. Then we're going to put 2 at the back and upgrade those as 30mm cannons and tell them to aim at the larger units should any large units come around here, because they'll probably just shred them if they do. We'll upgrade these to Gatlins. And we can see that that's starting to work quite well. Another thing, you can put these walls down, which are quite effective. Just in case you're wondering why I'm not putting like proper defences down and things. They're not bad. You can upgrade them, but when you upgrade them, what it'll actually do, it increases the amount of damage enemies take when they attack the walls. But when you increase the health, it actually makes the wall taller, and then these can't fire from behind it. And no, you cannot place them on the wall. So again, there's a little bit of weirdness to the RTS stuff. Things that you would want to do, like build a load of walls and put these behind them. And you'll notice that these are struggling to shoot over them. Like, they are in range here, but obviously the cryo turrets can't quite reach them and that, so sometimes it's better to not actually have the walls. We've got our first boss wave in here, so I've got a blade apostle here. So he's going to try to run at our base with a big sword and slice it open. And we've got another one here, it looks like another blade apostle. We'll see what they do. Probably not a lot. The cruiser cannon should be kicking in a moment. Yep, that would be the cruiser cannon firing. You'll notice that they're already more or less dead. Both of the Hellfires, the ones at the front and side here, have immediately taken an interest. You can see his health just dissolving. The cruiser cannon takes another shot and they're gone. Now, as you lose these core bases, the enemies will start to push you from other flanks. So if we lose here, they start pushing from here to kind of be like almost if they're advancing on us. So if I rebuild this, once I can afford it. Oh, it looks like one's made it in here. We're going to need more ammo, because I'm not reloaded yet. Right, they're dead. Okay. Looks like they've ripped some of the floor off the base as well there. Right. If we rebuild this... Mind you, I've just started rebuilding it as we've lost all the sodding turrets, of course. Because I'm a fool, I guess. Right. Can I afford the cryo muzzles? I can. Why is it not selecting this one? Oh, it's already upgraded, that's why, right. This one needs to be upgraded. These will just put minigun barrels on, and that should hold for a while. Should. Yeah, I think I want to put another turret up here. Just to be sure. Because that's made me a bit nervous now. Yeah, they are looking at it. I'm going to use some armour plates as well. Little blue bar on the left, that's your armour. Very important you keep an eye on that. Right. Looks like, yeah, these tunneling alien things are really giving us a problem here. I think what we'll do is we'll try to pull the same trick at the front here. We'll put a couple of these freeze turrets up. Tends to be a good way of handling them, because they untunnel to get these turrets. The turrets then freeze them, and then your turrets behind finish them off for them. So yeah, it's a good counter to them. We'll move the ranges out of the way. What we can do as well is we can actually produce our own little these guardians. You can have freeze variants.
Guardian moving.
Anyway,
Guardian
one last thing I
moving.
just want to point
Guardian.
out with the real-time strategy elements, you'll notice that, yeah, like over here, it's happening again. Our turrets just getting absolutely overwhelmed. We could build an absolute wall of turrets and spend loads of resources on it, and I've done this before in areas. But the problem I tend to find is you cannot actually reload. Like, I can't reload these turrets. Unless I got out of the base, flew over there, either I walked, went up this staircase and got there, or got in the mech and flew up or something, I'd then have to go to the turret and manually reload it while carrying an ammo crate, which is quite the pain. Like I say, it is quite a pain to have to go and do that, and what you find is because of that, you cannot actually reload. Like, once these cryo turrets here run out of ammo, they'll not fire anymore. They'll just stop firing. We can't press a button to reload the ammo on them. Like over here, this 30mm's only got a few shots left. This 30mm is already out, right? At least you can tell your own artillery formation things to blow themselves up, because otherwise you'd hit the unit cap when you've just got a load of empty guns, which would be a bit annoying, because we're already at like 17 of 20 that I'm allowed to build. So we're already close to that unit cap. When you upgrade them to a different variant of gun, you can actually, it reloads them for you. So in earlier levels you can actually kind of exploit this. So you can keep them as a machine gun for a while and just upgrade them to Gatling gun. Then you can upgrade them to like a cryo gun or whatever afterwards. And what that will do is then it'll reload them, so that they're almost so that they've had like 2 magazines worth. One as a machine gun, one as a cryo turret, before they run out of ammo, and then you have to destroy the turret entirely to replace it. You can, I think, there is an endless mode, which is quite interesting, and that you can end up being able to build like autoloaders and other guns from the game just as like turrets that you can place on the floor. The problem is the autoloaders, I think that they make their connection to the turrets around them that they're going to reload. They do that at the very beginning when you place them, so and these are all, by the way, all the consoles that allow me to build all the different units. So as long as you have these in your base and they have to be there, you can't, like, if something came in now and just destroyed all these consoles, I'd lose the ability to build things. So you want them kind of like in the core of your base and well protected. But yeah, even if I could build autoloaders around these turrets, the autoloaders, now they would reload the turrets, but say the turrets got destroyed and I built new turrets, it makes that connection with the turrets around them when you build them. So yeah, so it makes that connection when you build the autoloader. So, for example, if the autoloader on my base was destroyed and I had the ability to build a new autoloader, it would connect up to the turrets on my base. However, if a turret was destroyed and I replaced the turret, the only way to get it to connect to the autoloader would be to build the autoloader again as well, which is a pain. And speaking of pains, these things raining down on me are getting quite annoying. Because they do a lot of damage. Yeah, they're getting out of hand. Right, hang on. Let's turn this into a cryo muzzle. So this one will freeze them as they're trying to get in. Good. I suppose the target's me. I don't really like that negative effect that you can get. I usually don't take it, but it usually gives you really good rewards. You just have to put some turrets on the top of your base to stop them dropping on you and literally like sniping you out of your own base. The way the game tends to flow as well is as you do get into the later stages of the game, like at the beginning you are doing most of the work. It's like you're doing half the work and your turret's doing the other half. As you get to the mid game, it kind of turns around a bit. Oh god, we've not been building ammo, hang on. Fill that ammo, come on. Hellfires, come online. I've been talking that much, I've completely forgotten to build ammo. Oh, that is terrible. Right, they should come online in a second, but what I can do myself is I have some ammo boxes on me. I can just go down there and do this. Right, I need to reload it. Oh, I've only got one ammo box on me. Oh, that's a problem. Yeah, this is why having the automatic ones is a lot better. Because you don't accidentally forget them. Right. We've only got 60 seconds to go, it'll not be a problem. These nebula things seem to be handled for the most part. The main issue is not that the nebulas are there, it's that they've got like a bonus 50% health or something stupid. Right, more ammo being made. You can also see now the performance is getting a little bit choppy. And these guns have run out of ammo. So we'll upgrade those into maybe something else, and as part of the upgrade it gives them a new mag. We've lost a turret here, that's pretty bad. It's one of our big turrets as well. The one on the right side here can probably... it can't shoot through those walls, I'd say. Yeah, it's... This will be an issue. It's my bad for screwing up the ammo manufacturing. Recovery though is complete with... And we'll hold position. We've pretty much finished wiping them out now. And there we go. We've survived the siege. So that's like on the hardest difficulty with a bunch of modifiers and me forgetting to keep on top of the ammo because I was that fussed about telling you all the different things and features and stuff. But even then, like I said, I'm at a point with this where I have completely beaten the game. If you're wondering what end game looks like, this is it. There'll usually be like a big boss as well, but again, we didn't get enough loot to make him appear. If we'd have gone and done it all manually throughout the for the tour, we would have probably got there. I'm not going to take the tech points or anything, they'll just clog up my inventory and I don't need those anymore because I've researched everything. But yeah, it highlights some of like big ticket items for loot on your map as well when you've finished the big siege. But I like to do a little scan as well at each area, especially where we killed bosses, because that's usually where you'll find all the good stuff. Overall, again, if you're wanting some kind of big base building game with mechs and cannons and all sorts, you will not find anything better than this. Like, if you have an itch to just build a giant fort and watch it go burr, like, there is no better game than this. I'm just going to put it out there. And again, the big thing I would say here is, even in spite of all the jank and like little things that I think they could add in and features I'd like to see in future versions, in spite of it all, they have definitely achieved their vision here. Like, they've definitely realised their creative vision of, we want a giant base that just blasts everything. Right, what's useful here as well at the end, so we got the recovery container, which I believe is here. This allows us, so on the final day normally you can't recover anything. You can't recover anything extra other than what's in your inventory. Not a big problem at the start, but as you get to the later stages you'll notice the container in our base is already gone. You don't get that on the final day. Right? So having this extraction container that you can put all this stuff in is actually rather useful. We'll actually take that thing out. We can put these in. Right, so now we can take those items out as well. Then we can go back for these. That said, what we can do as well, like if this is maybe too much for my no, it looks like it'll just fit in my inventory, but yeah. What you can also do is you can go up to, because I've got on my base, if I just go up to the top of it now, I do like the double jump ability. We can, for 30 power, so it will cost us some power, we'll craft some more ammo as well because it will all get taken back to the base. But for 30 power I can open this up and I could say fill it with stuff, and then you press start and that will directly recover that. Even if we failed this end siege, say that earlier on I went and direct recovered like a heroic item or some kind of mission specific thing that I need for the main story or whatever, and I extract it like this, it will guaranteed be extracted even if I die during the campaign here. Yeah, so a good way of securing things. Just again, another little gripe as well that I have with like these hangars. So you saw that we can create more drones, more of those Guardian drones. The same does not work for the mechs. Like I can't go and like click on this hangar in the commander mode here and press a button down here to produce a mech. Which I really would love it if it worked like that, and like the little, if like a little thing went up and just like 3D printed you a mech. That would be that would be absolutely amazing. I'm gonna have to wrap this up as well. So not only have we been going a long while, but my voice is starting to crack more and more. You can tell I'm kind of recovering from a cold a bit here, but I've been meaning to try and get this done before it goes on sale on the Steam winter sale, which is what I'm hoping to do here. But yeah, as you can see, we're getting a bit close now on the amount of stuff we can carry. We're probably gonna, yeah, hit the max. It's got a very good robust inventory system, but you can also hold materials. Ooh, that's a purple valuable. So we can hold on to this. You can't extract with this. So if I got in the extract now and activated this, it would drop it. It wouldn't carry it. But if I needed to like carry this to my loot container at the base or something, as I'm doing now, you can do that. Which is one of those lovely little features that you usually see in like extraction games, which is really quite nice to see here. Again, I'll produce some more ammo just so that there's some excess at the base. Yeah, because I want to take some back with me to make up for the ammo that I brought. So if we just load that in and then put this chip in. Then, I don't know, throw these in or something. Right, that's unclogged our inventory. We can probably pick up the last few items now. Again, I think that the gun customization is more than anything I would have expected. The building and the outpost building customization and the stuff you've got with it. And again, this is not like this outpost can tackle the end of the game, but you can go a little bit crazier than this, which is when you get to the point where you've got these giant like conveyor systems just loading ammo in an automated way just to all the guns in the base. And that's probably my next phase before I'm finished with the game. I'm looking to actually create like a time lapse of me building that, which should be on the channel soon if you're looking to looking for what the base will look like at the very end of all of this. But yeah, I think I've more or less covered everything. The last few things that I would say is, now the game is fully co-op, right? You can play the game in co-op. I haven't tried it. I don't know anyone who has this. The game was very janky at launch. It's a lot better now. But it was very janky at launch, and you can see there it's duplicated them exactly as I said it probably would. So we've got some extra items, very nice. Just make sure we've unclogged our inventory of stuff, and we need some more ammo boxes for the next run. In fact, we'll just throw some in here. Yeah, probably just throw that in. Right, we've got all those. We can press sort on this. I do love the auto sort as well. Fantastic. Great. And that's kind of your ready for the next mission. Yeah, it has co-op, and you can imagine when you're doing all the exploration, like it takes hours solo. But you can imagine if there's 4 of you, because there can be up to 4, and you're all going to like one building each and just running back to the base, you could drastically shorten the time, and you wouldn't feel pressured to just go and do the auto loot thing. because you'd be able to actually do it in a reasonable time then at that point. I do think that the whole looting aspect of the game, there's a problem with that. I don't particularly like it because it is very long. It's very kind of dull and boring, and it feels like really what I want to be doing is I want to be playing the big sieges at the end over and over. I would almost prefer if the auto loot was the default. I almost think that the auto loot should give you less stuff but cost less power. Like, it should be the other way around. Like, the auto loot should give you about as much stuff as it does now, but cost the same power as currently going to a place manually does. But going to it manually should obviously, and it is true when you go in, it gives you way more things with way better odds of getting things like heroics and so on, and legendary items. It has way better odds of that, but I think that one should be the one to cost more. Yeah, or have them cost the same and it just take more time, you know. But I used to do exclusively just auto loot runs for a long time till it got to the very end, when it got to the point where it no longer, it usually used to fill in all your power to full when you went into an area, but it turns out it actually only gives you like 1,000, I think it's like 1,500-ish starting power, and when you go beyond that in like your base's capacity to hold it, like when you can hold more power than that, it stops giving you excess power to start with. So I didn't really feel the burn till the final area, but I've had to do lots more manual searching in the final zones, especially for heroics, which are highly unlikely to show up on the auto loot runs. So it's a bit dodgy with the looting. Again, it'd be alright if it were more interesting, but a lot of looting games, they're usually PvP, they're usually extraction shooters, that sort of thing, where there's more there's more on the line, you've staked a lot of stuff. There isn't the same tension and fun here, it just feels like you're going and doing a shopping run, you know. It feels a bit tedious. I feel like that part of the game is the weakest, that they need to work on the most if they were doing, say, a sequel or something. I would almost say that you should just run along the map doing auto, like the auto loot thing should be normal. You shouldn't even go to it and loot things. Like almost as a non-op, just almost not have it as an option, I would say. And you just, it could just give you stuff, and then you could just get your rewards, get to the end and finish. I almost feel like it's unnecessary having that there. And it's weird because they've done a really good job of it. The inventory and being able to hold an extra item, it's all done very well. I think it's probably one of the better inventory systems I've seen. What's weird as well is some of these extraction shooters and looting games don't even allow you to do this. Like, I can grab something and I can rotate it. Whoa! Some of them don't even do that. Like, they're just not even they're not even capable of doing that. It's really weird. I want to ensure this as well. I'm going to have to destroy some items in order to be able to do it, which I'm going to hate having to do. So you have to break down other gear, because you have different currencies. So to get this insurance points, you get it by destroying gear. So I'm going to have to destroy a number of gear in order to be able to actually insure that heroic item. Which, we'll probably need a handful of legendaries, so I'll sell my lower quality ones which don't have like any pluses on. Is that enough? Yes. So now if I die I won't lose that. Which is important because that's going to keep me alive a lot better than anything else. And as you can see, like, the combat rate on a heroic is nearly double that of a legendary. In fact, it is double that of a of a base legendary. Like these have got +1, they're like 2,000 and odd. The +2 is a bit over 3,000. This is over 6. So crazy. Yeah. So like I said, I've looked at a bit of the co-op gameplay, like literally because I don't know anyone who has this. I was gonna go through it originally. I was gonna see if I could get a few friends and my brother maybe that to do a 3 or 4 player run or something. And some of the content I was gonna do in my Let's Play series was probably gonna be co-op. But when the game was as jank as it was on launch, and yeah, I didn't bother recommending it to them then, but I probably would now. The problem is now is I've beaten the game already, so it's a bit late to do that. But the gameplay I've seen of the co-op, it's got some dodgy connection issues and problems around it. But again, the only footage I could find was like from 8 months ago. There's not a lot of people who did co-op runs on this on YouTube or anywhere else. There's very little footage of it. Because I think at launch it was horrendous. I don't know what it's like now. I couldn't tell you. But I would assume because of the amount of stuff you're having to do and the frantic pace and having to run around, and until you can automate your ammo, you are just running around reloading things. You spend a lot of the early game on foot, just doing a lot of the work yourself, just shooting everything and reloading guns. As you get to the mid game, it's more like you in a turret. And you'll create like waves of defences, like defensive lines as they come up toward you, and you tend to run around in the mech. That's what I did. And then as you get to the late game, you're just running around reloading things whilst then going back and forth in command mode, building turrets, until you finally automate the loading systems, and then you just spend most of your time in command mode, because that's where you're most useful, just building turrets and things. But I'd imagine having 3 other people around, like they could actually maybe take a flank each and be reloading guns and building their own little auto-loaders and keeping things fed and doing that sort of thing. Maybe even having their own mech and blasting everything. And having the whole character roster makes more sense in co-op, because by default the main character of the game cannot die. The character I'm currently playing as is Faye, and he has literally a bonus called plot armor, so he cannot die from a mission. He'll just come back without his stuff. But on co-op, I think you have to play as a different character. If you're not the host, you have to be someone else, which is where the whole roster comes in. So it seems like there's a lot of stuff built in for co-op, but it seems like, unfortunately, the co-op, again, I don't know the quality of it now, but at launch, it's put a lot of people off. I think that's pretty much everything said on the game at this point. There are other modes. Of course, instead of the tour mode, you can go on like these infinite wave defense things, and this Return to Dawn base is like a wave defense roguelike mode of sorts, where you get like different rewards each wave that allows you to build like different defenses and turrets and upgrades in certain ways. It works a bit weird, especially with the difficulty, and it can be a bit odd, but it's a lot of fun, and it adds a lot of replayability to it. Another thing I mentioned, like you send your guys out on like side missions. We can have a quick look at that because they'll have come back by now. So it's in this dispatch thing here. You can go to like a side mission. I sent these out last time. Sometimes there'll be a bonus mission here, and you have to make some choices to... Oh, they failed. They failed and retreated, but no one's died, thankfully. So that was that mission. We can go to this one. These have got a bonus mission that you can do, so sometimes there's multiple choices. You can see the success rate and the death chance, and if you hover over them, you see the death chance appear below the portraits there. So this has a 15% chance to fail, and if they fail, there's a 9% chance of them dying. Whereas it'll be an 91% chance of them living should they fail. Here, there's an 89% chance of success, and if they do fail, there's only a 1% chance of them then dying. and they each have different rewards. So I'm not really bothered about any of these rewards, so we'll just take that. Just take the one with a lower chance of death. So this time we've got some bit better rewards, but again I'm at the end game, so none of these really overly matter to me. So I'm just going to go for the one that's most likely to succeed. And then you get to claim your rewards. A nice bit of scrap metal's alright though. You can always use more basic materials, and we've got some more basic materials here. No bonus mission. And the same here, no bonus mission. So we just go there, and then you can send in whoever you want to send in on the next one. And some of them have requirements, like this one requires only one person, but they have to be at least level 16, and from a specific they have to be a specific class. But you get the idea, the general gist. I think if I were to be fair, if I were to be honest, like, the game is really good. The campaign mode as the main mode is really good. The roguelike mode, and there are challenges to that as well. So you can go to like Return to Dawn base here. There's challenge modes, which are like preset challenges. It'll even give you some preset what's it? Here we are, some preset outposts that you can use for each mission, because sometimes like mine is way too powerful to use on the challenges, so I would have to use some of their preset ones here. But I think you can set different loadouts for your base, so I could do that. Set like a different loadout for my base, build like a new design, save that, and then use that. And then there's like a freeform mode where you can choose whether you'll not get any rewards, but you can play it casually, where there's no risk to your character. You can do a roguelike run where you get 50% rewards, and that'll give you a random character just for the run. Or you can go on survival where you use your actual characters and your actual roster and things, and you play it as if you would a normal tour or something. And then you can choose what type of awards it's going to give you at the end. If you go for just a balanced random amount of different events, it'll give you more reward. It's like this risk factor is basically a multiplier to the rewards you're going to get. So this one will focus on making your operative better, this one focuses on making your base better, and this one focuses on making your support facilities and turrets better. In fact, not support facilities, no, this one's for, yeah, making like your robot guardians and your mechs better, sorry. So this one's more like you want to create units, this one's like you're going to do all the work, this one's your fort is going to do it all. Or you can get like a mixture. And it'll be a bit more random, but you'll get more reward. And then you go to the events and you can choose like loads of different things that will either raise or lower the difficulty. So opportunities make it easier. So like, oh, I can reduce skill cooldowns, I can have infinite stamina, I can have infinite preparation time. But they lower the reward, whereas these, again, when you increase risk factor and you increase the amount of reward and things, you can see it down here. This will go up, so I can turn that on. It's gone from 1,856, well, it went up by 100 there, so you can see, plus 100, boop, a little bit extra. This is why the multipliers are really important. But you start going like, let's see, enemy attacks will temporarily disconnect any components they hit, gives you 300% more risk, right? But you start doing stuff like, okay, we're going to have different types of enemies arrive, we can increase their base attack, base health, base armor, base attack and things, make them move faster. You can quickly start sending this up into heroic. And the ones that are percentage based, like, okay, so they'll be 50% more, but then that's 50%, and it'll multiply everything else by it, so... Anyway, I think if I were to say anything that I'd because I've already said what I've loved about it, like the actual, you know, building a big ass base and customizing your weapons to create something absolutely crazy, and all of that is excellent. I think the looting, I don't even see why it's there. I think that could almost be like you just click on the location, auto loot. The actual running around and grabbing all the stuff, especially when there's not much there in the way of enemies, seems pointless and just there to bulk out the length of the game. I don't actually know why it's there. I think it either needs to be that it's an actual risk thing and there's loads of enemies and you have to actually consider what you're going to take in with you, make it like a proper like PvE extraction shooter part of the game. Because at the moment you go in, there's practically no risk. Some of the maps, as we've seen, there aren't even enemies. The whole looting aspect needs to be completely reworked, I think. Like the gameplay mechanics there, I mean, they're all there and they're fine, but it's not designed in a way that works. Again, it either has to have way more danger and more reward, and for there to be an actual point in fighting these enemies and that. Well, an actual point to go in and doing the looting, like there needs to be enemies, there needs to be risk reward, there needs to be all that going for it. It needs to be a lot less grindy, I would say, with the looting, because this game, if you're considering buying it, I mean, it's either good or bad this, but it will last you for probably a good 100+ hours of just going in and looting things, essentially. But at the moment, yeah, it takes too long, it's a bit of an issue, and it's largely because, yeah, you go in and you start looting and you're there for, 2 hours looting to then have like 20 minutes fighting the enemies at the end. It feels like there should be less looting and more shooting, so to speak. Like I say, I can't say much on the co-op, but it's just be warned that I don't know how functional that is in terms of connections and things. So be warned, and I don't know how I'd go testing it. I don't know anyone who's playing this co-op or anything like that, so if you're looking for co-op, just be a bit wary. It is on sale. The game is not massively expensive at the moment on the Steam sale, and even when it's not on sale, it's not like a AAA price game. It's very much a AA game. Again, RTS elements, I would say, like I say, it's difficult to keep the things you've built fed with ammo. They're almost just disposable. I wish they weren't, but they kind of are. I feel like there should be an ammo production building that you could put down that's maybe like a couple a couple ammo makers and an autoloader that just will reload turrets nearby. And also, when you build a turret near an autoloader, it needs to link them up, because at the moment, as I mentioned, if you build a turret next to an autoloader, it doesn't link them up. You have to build the autoloader second, because otherwise what happens is it doesn't link them together. So yeah, it's little quality of life from there, a bit of just, the game does still have, even now after a lot of patches and things, some performance issues, a bit of jank around it, things like that. Again, I mentioned the cutscenes and characters and things. The story and the campaign of that aren't very good. Like, if you're here for the campaign, it isn't some crazy involved story where you're doing loads of cool missions with loads of set pieces. You mostly just go to maps that they reuse and like grab an item and then leave. And that's most of the missions. You don't really know what you're even doing. It's like, I don't know. The story is that the robots are bad and we're shooting them. That's essentially it. Yeah. The robots have taken over large parts of the world. Let's take them back. Shooty shooty, go. That's essentially it. There's a crazy thing where if your base is actually destroyed, if you're wondering, giant square robot boulders rain from the sky and try to kill you while you extract. That's interesting. Like, these giant square pillars just like fall down. It's very again, the game is really good with the spectacle and the scale of things. It's something they've really done well with, and it is a bit like a moment of awe when you first see these things. It really is. But another thing, just that lets down, I've gone over it, the RTS elements. Just you can't build more mechs, you can't customize mechs, you can build the Guardians and move them around, and they do pathfind a bit better, but still, you're not exactly playing a real-time strategy game here, and the units are pretty crap. They've tried to buff them, especially recently with Guardians getting more health, but they're not really very good. I'll be honest. Like, if you're trying to play this as an RTS game, you would struggle, right? You could maybe build your base around it, but you'd have to have a lot of those units going around. Maybe in co-op it wouldn't be as bad, because you could almost have one person like playing as a commander, seeing as everyone else will be holding the line with them. It'll take a lot of the decision making off them, so they can do a bit more. Like, if I were in command mode, then I wouldn't have to just be focused on build ammo, build turrets, build ammo, build turrets over and over. I'd have a moment in between because I'd have other people helping, and maybe I could actually start building some units and commanding them around and things. You know, it'd be a little bit less hectic. But again, assuming the co-op works. I don't know if it does. And I've mentioned this, and I've done a end of year roundup. It's quite a long video. It's there on the channel if you're interested, but it's more of something you would definitely put on a second monitor. I think the one last year I did were about 50 minutes long. This is like 5 hours, because I really went over things in way too much depth. But I mentioned this as like a game that it's probably been one of the most buggy games of the year. I think it was on the list, but I've also put it down as a game I'd want to see a sequel of the most, because I think there's a lot here that is great, but they've not quite hit the mark with. You know, there's just a few things I'd love to see this done with, where it's got better performance, it's had more time in the oven, it's got, you know, it's a lot better and it works a lot more, and there's, you know, properly produced, like proper cutscenes, better lip sync and things. I mean, part of me at one point thought, well, maybe it's a Chinese game, maybe the lip sync was done for Chinese or something, but no, I think it is literally just like goldfish mouth. You know, they're just going blub blub blub. But yeah, if it were to move into a sequel, I think definitely one thing I would love to see is if you could actually move the thing about. Because at the moment it just kind of stands there. You press to go to another location, it just loads you into another map, a new location. You don't actually drive it around. I would love to see my giant battleship moving around, almost like in, I think it's Mortal Engines or something it's called, the film, like where there's these giant mobile cities. I want to just see this giant land ship going across the map, gunning everything down in its wake. Right? That would be astounding. I would love that. And if then the looting was a case of, you know, you go to a location and I don't know, maybe you could just push a button and drones do it or something, then rewards come up or something, I don't know. Or maybe, you know, maybe they'll make the looting experience a bit better. Put some actual stakes onto it, and something I'd think as well that would make sense is, as your character progresses, maybe move them from just running around in like their armor to moving around in maybe then like power armor and then the mech, and maybe make it so you can customize the mech and have it respawn in the mech hangars and things, so that then when you're looting as well, maybe when you've got power armor, you can carry more stuff, and then carry even more stuff when you become a mech, and so on and so forth, and design it around that. Like the mech could have like a cargo container on the back of it, and power armor as well, and to kind of make it feel like your character progresses more, because at the moment you get to the end of the game and your character, even though they've got all this cool like high tier armor on, doesn't feel like I feel like your character falls off in terms of the power about a third of the way through the game, and they never catch up again. Like by the end, your character, you're just hiding them in the base, almost in like a panic room, hoping that none of the enemies find them. and you daren't go outside, because my God, you will just get absolutely crushed if you leave the base. Like nothing will save you. You will die if you leave the base. But I feel like if I could be in like a power armor suit, so I weren't as squishy, or if I were in like a big stompy mech, and I could go around and loot and put things in like the back of the mech and customize it more than like the current mech system in the game. Almost like when you're doing just how you do your character, how I've got like this inventory system here where you can drag items on, and like if I could do the same with the mech, if there were like a little panel when you got in the mech, and I can just like drag on this like these armor panels and then drag on like this gun and that gun. The mech could even you could even have the mech just have like hands like Titanfall that hold just a big scaled up version of your gun, and it just just work the same as your gun. It'd be quite cool. I'd love to see that sort of thing. Again, I'd love to see your base roaming around more. I think the real-time strategy elements, there really could be something there. It could be quite good, but I think that the pathfinding is going to have to be really nailed down, and the units are going to have to be way more powerful than they currently are. Like the mechs are kind of where they need to be, but the Guardians, like I feel like I need about 6 Guardians to be, to make up for the equivalent of 1 mech. And another problem you get is as you start building more and more stuff, the performance really starts to tank when you start building lots of stuff. I've had the game crash multiple times, purely because I've got loads of stuff built. So that seems to be a bit of a problem. It's why I tend to not build too much these days. I try to let the base do the heavy lifting. Again, there's a lot of customization here. I'll just show you like some of the crazy things you can build here. Flamethrowers. There's the cryo turret that we kept using. We can even get an advanced Guardian fabricator, so more advanced bots can be used. You can get like smart mortars, twin barrel 30 mils. There's the CIWS system we had, the pre-war. I forgot to launch a nuke. Oh, damn. Oh well. Machine guns, and lots of stuff here. And then if we go to the bottom, the stuff that I've not got the materials for at the moment, or whatever, you can get like the Exterminator, which is like the souped up version of the 30mm cannons. Those rocket arrays that I've got one of. The twin barrel artillery. The big end game weapon that's absolutely crazy, just a railway gun on your base. Absolutely fantastic stuff. Those are the Hellfires we were using. These all use like heroic and legendary items and things as well. So anyway, I hope that gives you a general gist of how the game is. Again, I personally would love to see a sequel. If you're interested in this game, like even in spite of all its flaws, it's extremely fun, really good base building experience, and just wave defense sort of thing. And I'd love to see a sequel. I'd love to see it more optimized, because I've seen, the likes of Helldivers and Space Marine 2 this year, where they have as much on screen, and it is not lagging. Granted, they don't also have a giant modular base strapped onto the screen, but you get my point. I'd love to see it with way more performance being eked out of it, and just again, if it could be, instead of this big, I'd either want to see them just get rid of the looting altogether and it just be a map that you click on and it's like, here's some stuff, here's some stuff, here's some stuff. You get to the, and you choose your rewards, and then you get to the end, almost like a roguelike, as you click on like area to area getting stuff, and then you get to the end and you fight a big boss. Almost like that. I'd almost prefer it. Or, if they weren't going to do that, I'd say make it a big open world map for each of the areas, and just let you drive the thing around. Either or, it'd be... But, I think that, and then re-looking over the RTS elements for a sequel would probably be what I'd want to see, as well as just more performance. You know, they don't necessarily need more enemies in a sequel, but I think it needs to perform better with the same amount of stuff on screen. Other than that, yeah, weapons, the weapons, the base building, all the important, really core aspects are absolutely nailed. Which is, it's why, even though if you were to ask me, the game's like a 7 or 8 maybe out of 10, if I were gonna be honest about it, like you wouldn't call it a 10 out of 10. It's not perfect, obviously, but it realizes the fundamental concept of the game. You know, that's fully realised. You make a big base, you blow shit up in a big way. The bosses are incredibly fun. It's a good 7 or 8 out of 10. It's not one of these where it's there because it's lackluster. It's there because it's a little bit buggy and needs a bit more, you know, needs some more polish and getting rid of some of the jank, and some of the design decisions that they've made aren't brilliant, but I would wholeheartedly recommend it, especially for the price. I think it's like 20 quid or something at the moment. It's very cheap. It's on sale. You could test the co-op out with some friends. Again, it's going fairly cheaply, but I can't say with certainty whether that works or not. Thank you very much for watching though. There's more of this on the channel as well. Obviously there's a giant series that I've run, probably the most popular series on the channel, where it's a full playthrough of it, which will be ending soon. I think I've already finished I've got like one final episode where I'm gonna put together a time lapse of me putting together the final base and then giving it a bit of a run out on a tour before we wrap up the game. Thank you very much for watching though. I hope this has helped you make a decision on this. Apologies that it ran long, but the tours, if I'm going to give you an example of the tour of the game, I'm really going to explain all the systems, which there's a lot of, because it's a first person RTS tower defense strategy game thingy. You know, there's a lot of different moving parts here that you have to explain and show examples of, but I hope this has helped with understanding how the game works, what it's like, and I hope to see you in future videos. I'll see you then.